Well, I don't know about being an expert on MOOCs. I am an expert on cookies. I will at least go there. I think what you may find here in a few minutes, I may be one of the folks that knows a lot about the right questions to ask about new models and MOOCs and the like, but I think you'll have to join me, and we're all attempting to become experts in what are the answers to those questions. I want to echo Lynn's thank you to all those individuals that have put this event together today. We started this with the idea we needed to find some way to at the very least get a small, intimate, very personal conversation between our faculty around new models, and she's right about the mushroom, because it doubled and then it tripled and then it quadrupled. That's a good problem to have. I keep telling Lynn that that's always a good problem to have in an event. We are so appreciative of the response that we received. We also are so appreciative. I was glad that President Peterson mentioned Regent Dean Alford. Regent Alford, we really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. He has absolutely been an advocate for how can we think about where innovation, where are there opportunities in terms of serving students, in terms of thinking about our faculty expertise and how we're aligning our research, our teaching, and our service assets that are so deep and so wide within this system against the challenges of the future, knowing that the University System of Georgia really is a leader nationally, and appreciate Regent Alford's leadership. And I also want to acknowledge Dr. Belle Whelan, who's here with us today from the Sachs Commission on Colleges. Dr. Whelan, the leadership that she provides to our regional association. Many of you know her and her team. We are so excited about having them as partners. Again, as sometimes the questions outnumber the answers, but that we're going to be brave in moving forward with that. And I also want to, before I get into my comments today, to thank President Peterson, Raphael Bras, the provost here, and the entire Georgia Tech team. They really are outstanding partners within our system, outstanding colleagues to work with, and on the subject that we're here to talk about today, certainly not only leadership nationally, but internationally. So we're always glad to be able to say that. 31 campuses represented here today. We are excited about the fact that the bulk of today is not hearing from the cookie expert, but you're going to be hearing from a lot of your colleagues. Throughout the course of the day, I think I counted 24, 25 different voices that are going to have the opportunity to directly engage with you. And then when we do the breakouts, in some ways, what was our final count, Lynn? 150 will be directly and indirectly engaged in those conversations. That is where we need to have this. We need it to be an involved. It's a multi-dimensional problem. We need to have multiple voices coming and sorting out where the challenges and the opportunities. An overall theme that I think that you're going to hear throughout the day will be these refrains that I think will come back over and over again. First of all, what do we know? Whether it's about the topics of MOOCs or other new models and new teaching and learning strategies, different ways to be able to document quality teaching and learning. There are a lot of things that involve the toolbox. Those things that we as faculty and the supports that surround quality teaching and learning use, whether we be in a seminar, small classroom, a lot of one-on-one engagement with the students, or if we're doing something at scale that's leveraging some of those technologies. Either way, what do we know? What is just speculation? What opportunities are being discussed here in Georgia? And then what elsewhere is being discussed? And then the bottom question there is the most important. How can quality be assured? And I would posit that that should be the most important question, whether, again, we're talking about a 10-student seminar that's packed into a conference room off a hallway of one of your academic buildings, or we're talking about something that is 10,000 students in a MOOC or MOOC-like experience. How can quality be assured should absolutely be the thing that we come back to. Those of you that heard me talk about Complete College Georgia know that those quality assurances have to enter in to Georgia's conversations about the completion agenda. You've heard us talk over and over again that we know that there's a pretty significant gap in terms of the projections for the future of Georgians and how many of those Georgians have some post-secondary credential compared to if we just continue on our trend line now, where we would be. To be able to close that gap from the baseline of 42% up to 60%, that's the estimate of where the workforce will need to be, again, with some sort of certificate, some sort of associate degree, bachelor's degree, or graduate degree, obviously a mix of all of those. 60% means 250,000 more. We, as our system, is not alone in pursuing this goal. The technical college system is a partner. The proprietary schools in Georgia are partners. The private universities and colleges are partners. And the Georgia economy is a partner in terms of being able to retain more college graduates than we lose to other states. As we're looking at that, I think some of you that may not be as familiar with the work at the state level on Complete College Georgia, but you should be very familiar with the work that's going on your campuses. There are some themes that have emerged from all 31 of our institution's plans, and I think that many of those strike at the heart of what we're talking about here today in thinking about new models in terms of delivery and services and opportunity. The area of partnerships for K-12 with K-12 for college readiness is certainly a dominant theme. The idea of those things that you're pursuing that get at promoting collegiate access, affordability, and value, that one in particular I think strikes at the heart of what you're doing as campuses and as departments within the universities and colleges to look for opportunities. The work that's going on among all of our campuses in developing new, flexible, and affordable pathways for degree completion. Whether you're our research universities or comprehensive universities that are perhaps focused on bachelor's degree and graduate degree completion opportunities, or you're our state colleges that are focused on certificates and associate degrees and some limited bachelor's degree options. That work is absolutely ongoing. Some of it involves technological strategies. Some of it involves just good old-fashioned getting out there, one-on-one, chalk talk sort of strategies with the students. But either way, flexible opportunities are there. The work to be able to identify students that are at risk, both before they come to us as well as when they come to us, is something that I think you're going to hear a lot today about how some of these new opportunities and innovations perhaps provide us opportunities to reach at-risk students earlier rather than later. And then the fifth area that I would say that's an overall theme of what the campuses are pursuing and what we're trying to do is how can we, again, whether it's in a traditional classroom format or a term that's starting to be used a lot more, traditional online learning. How does that strike your ear? Or it be these more radical ideas about how things could be done at scale in a MOOC or a MOOC-like fashion. Either way, how is that advancing quality of teaching and learning and quality of what the students gain from their experience with us, and how does that position them for the future? And then obviously you're all full aware that as we shift toward not just an enrollment-driven funding model, but more of one that's about completion, how important is it that we keep the quality assurances at the front of that? One of the things that I've told every time I've had an opportunity to speak before faculty groups, the completion agenda conversation in Georgia is not about every student just going through the McDonald's drive-thru and ordering their order, unwrapping their burger, and there's a diploma in there. This is about how can we identify those students that are in academic good standing, that are making progress toward a degree. How can we begin doing things even more proactive to influence their likelihood of being able to finish that degree? And again, your 31 campuses are playing that out on a daily basis. We know that there are a lot of strategies that are being kicked around in terms of what some of these new models, these new strategies of delivery, these new strategies of support may allow us. But in the end, we're going to go back over and over again to student success and quality of teaching and learning have to be at the center of that. We, as a system, feel very strongly that these are the type of new frontiers, the new opportunities that may well be able to help us in terms of increasing access. There are a lot of students, as President Peterson mentioned, that they are very dependent upon the flexibility that our campuses afford. But there are 1.2 million Georgians with some college no degree that are not enrolled in either our campuses, the private universities, or the technical colleges. There are 1 million Georgians that have a high school diploma that have never, ever attempted a post-secondary credit. So although we're very proud of the students that we do serve, we have just scratched the surface in terms of the market of opportunities out there. Those individuals that we know that the transformational opportunities that are available in higher education are there, but perhaps they just don't fit their model. And then we also are concerned about being able to shorten time to degree. One of the things that is absolutely baked into the overall completion agenda is time and money barriers are such a challenge to students these days. One of the things that the Chancellor and I share is a great concern that we here in Georgia have done what just about every other state has done. Over the last decade, we have been forced to raise tuition and fees to a level that we may well have priced a certain segment of Georgians out of our system. That is a challenge. Now, we know why we've done that. We have done that to be able to maintain quality. We've done that to keep the lights on. We've done that to take care of the mandatory cost. There have been some reasons that have led to those decisions. But as we look up, it's a little frightening to think that even among our state colleges and our state universities, we no longer can say that that is an affordable option, especially in a state that does not have a lot of need-based aid opportunities. As we look forward, we also know that these conversations are going to be about what is the role of technology going to be in terms of a variety of higher education experiences. We've got a wide range. These are just 3 different ways to look at it. We certainly have promote access opportunities. That's a core value of our system. It has been for the entire history of the university system of Georgia. We certainly provide residential experiences, as President Peterson mentioned earlier, and then we certainly have selective experiences. And then there are all sorts of shades of gray between those 3. But these multiple and complementary pathways and options, they only increase the health, the overall value of our system to the state of Georgia. Of course, no one probably beyond the first 3 rows will be able to read this. We know, again, that there are a lot of things that go into it. If we're going to keep student success and quality of learning in the center, it's not just about content. If it were just about content, you'd just buy the book. The printing press would have put what we do out of business. If it were just about content, you'd just, watch the History Channel. That'd be good. There's a lot more that goes into quality teaching and learning than just content. As we start thinking about, and we'll come back to this view just here in a little while, the resources that are available in terms of the textbooks and learning modules, the faculty expertise, the student support, the network, assessments, analytics, mobile, ID management, the financial model, the delivery system itself. Again, it doesn't matter whether or not you're viewing that through the lens of a 10-student seminar at the graduate level or through something at scale. You've got elements of one or more, and many times most of those things that are going to come into what is going to help us to enable success. One of the things that we know that we cannot ignore is the scale of what is being discussed. Talk a few minutes about MOOCs. Some of you have seen this slide before. You get a lot of different reactions. Here are just 3 reactions. We had 3 different buckets a couple of minutes ago. You get a lot of people that can get really excited about the opportunities. You can get a lot of people that are just puzzled. And you get a lot of people that, boy, it's just salty language that comes out of their mouth when the topic comes up. We know that the challenges that come with technology, with changes in communication, with opportunities to reach people on different levels can be a challenge to what we do, but we would say opportunities as well. Again, this is, Sir Ken Robinson had this in his book, Out of Our Minds. This is just 3,000 years of time compressed to 24 hours. And if you think about the Gutenberg printing press in 1450, that was just 11 minutes ago. You think about things, like radio and TV, the advent of everybody having a VCR in their home, the early days of online learning. At all of those times, I think that we heard doomsday scenarios about this is going to replace what we do. I can remember hearing someone say that, well, once everybody has a VCR in their house, they're not going to have to. They'll just get their courses by mail. I absolutely remember a number of folks, I was in Tennessee at the time, 96, 97, 98, saying, well, this online learning is going to certainly replace the need for bricks and mortar. And I can remember Dr. Joe Johnson, who's president of the University of Tennessee at that time, telling a Senate Education Committee that he was pretty sure as long as there were 18-year-olds, there were going to be a whole lot of mamas and daddies that needed a place for them to go. And he was right. But what we'd have to say is that with every new tool, and this is just a small sampling of those that are available to us, it changes what we do. It has an impact on what we do. So a lot of it is just what's the scale and what's the impact. One way I like to think about the MOOC conversation is to break it down and think about those 4 words. You may notice that the color scale there, that is the threat assessment level for the federal government. Okay. Now, courses don't bother us. Courses, that's what, well, we all do that. We're good with that. They were doing that in Malone in 1400. That was good. Students just paid, they contracted with faculty and they taught them. There was an exchange of information that was going on. That was sort of a course. All right, we'll deal with that. Online, I mentioned earlier, we are hearing more and more about traditional online learning. That just sounds crazy, but more and more you don't hear the debate about can quality learning occur online. It's just how does it? And in the same way, we don't always know a lot about the quality of teaching and learning that occurs in our traditional classrooms, but it's taking that apart and figuring out how and where is there quality teaching and learning no matter the mode. Open begins to really get the blood pressure just like that. Open has connotations of single source. It has connotations of there being a provider of a discipline. It has all sorts of things that just cause the enterprise to think, well, wow, this is going to be a challenge for academic, for fiscal, and for facilities assumptions that we make. Massively really goes off the scale, because how can something be massive and be good? How can something possibly be massive and lead to quality teaching and learning? Okay? But again, I'll go back to what's the question that should always be. It's that number 4. How can quality be assured? We're with you. We want to think about that. We know that these new models, there's a rapidly evolving environment. President Peterson mentioned that very bottom thing. The conversations are changing on a daily basis. That is absolutely positively true. Just when you think you might know all the actors that are in play, you look up by Monday, there's somebody new. And many times it's one of our campuses in our system or one of our peer campuses around the country. There are a lot of entrants. There certainly is a lot of talk about moving toward the creation of opportunities that will take the form of courses. And the most of the providers and the developers of the MOOCs, they talk about absolutely working toward ACE certification, the evaluation of those opportunities for credit or credit worthiness. One of the things that has occurred in the last 6 months is that very active conversation regarding the development of these opportunities is starting to be matched with an equally important conversation about the utilization of these tools. What's going to be the impact from a content, from an open educational resources, from a supports, from an assessment, from a just thinking about transcript assessment evaluation policy perspective. So by all means, that conversation is going on, and the University System of Georgia has absolutely made a commitment to be very active in that conversation. We know that from talking with counterparts around the country and from a lot of the early conversations that they share our thoughts that there may be some opportunities to improve and increase access and acceleration while also preserving quality. There are a lot of active conversations out there about how do you do those 3 things. The MOOC content, though, I think it's very important that the content alone, again, does not a course make, does not an experience make, but what are those things that are going to go in? And obviously those are just 3 or 4. You saw the wheel a little earlier. We are certainly knowledgeable about the fact that these disruptive innovations challenge a lot of what we do. It challenges a lot of our fiscal models going forward. But I got news for you. Just about every fiscal assumption that we have in higher education right now is being made. And that's true whether we're talking about traditional delivery or we're talking about MOOC delivery and every point in between. And we freely admit that there's pretty significant tension between viewing this from a student-centered worldview or an institution-centered worldview. You have a very different conversation depending upon which of those points of view you choose to operate. Some of the initial system thoughts, again, about affordability, quality, access, and completion are their roles that some of our campuses can play in pursuing some of these models. We are very committed to policy flexibility. One of the things that is really frustrating in higher education, policy is not meant to be static. It's meant to be dynamic. It's meant to grow and evolve as we as an enterprise innovate, and the creativity of our faculty and staff are brought to bear. We hear all the time from campuses in the completion agenda that they know the research says here's what they should do with students. Everything about best practices when they look at peer institutions say this is what we should do with students. There's the money that's been reallocated internally to do it, and somebody's made the commitment, but the thing that stands in their way is some antiquated Board of Regents policy. Our commitment to the currency and the relevance of policy has to be there as a centerpiece to everything that we're doing, but it in particular has to be when we're thinking about the completion agenda and as we're thinking about these new models. But again, you're going to hear us talk a lot as we go forward about complementary pathways, and we certainly see these opportunities to partner with other systems in other states. Just to kind of fill you in, there's been a very active conversation between our system and a number of other systems, my counterparts and other colleagues, the SUNY and CUNY system, the University of Texas system, the Cal State, Penn State, Florida University system, the two systems in Tennessee, the University of Nebraska system, University of Houston, University of Colorado, and there have been others, but those are a core group that has been really talking since about this time last year. We started just before Thanksgiving some pretty regular conversations and have been very thankful to Lumina and Gates that have been very supportive of those conversations continuing and have afforded us the opportunity to have some face-to-face gatherings and for the work around policy to be advanced. To give you a little glimpse into some of those conversations, because you may be wondering, well, where's the conversation in the other states? There, a quick questionnaire that was done of all of those systems. The interest in getting involved in MOOCs and new models really ranges, but here are some of the leading. They want to make certain to be on the cutting edge in terms of access to new instructional management technologies. They absolutely see this as an opportunity to improve student outcomes, the supplementary strategies, the looking at a hybrid course, being able to integrate these resources into courses that have high DFW rates is certainly there. They're absolutely talking about the potential for credit opportunities. Of course, we've got the example here in Georgia of the Master of Science in Computer Science. It'll be one of our first opportunities in that space where students will earn credit. I think that engaging generally in innovation, looking at is there any potential here for affordability and cost come up among all those systems, and then the idea of production of MOOCs and supplementary materials to support existing online courses is a very frequent thing that comes up. Everybody is very early on in this. One of the things, it's sort of like an AA support group. It's been nice to be able to go and admit that we've got a problem. And for those groups to also admit that they've got a problem. Everyone's kind of early in designing projects and plans, thinking about consortial opportunities, gaining what's being learned from early pilot opportunities, not only in the MOOC space, but a lot of the new models, and then initial implementation and testing. We think that as we've contributed to those conversations, that the opportunity to be able to help with capacity issues, some of our campuses have significant capacity issues at the general education space. I mean, we just had our first 4 of our 31 budget hearings over and over again. Your presidents are coming in talking about how hard it is in some of the locations in Georgia to be able to find faculty to teach core courses, to be able to teach those 1,000 level courses. There may be some opportunities to think about where is this in the gen ed space. We absolutely are starting to hear from a number of our campuses about opportunities to expand the scope of existing online degrees. Again, the supports for high DFW, looking at low risk recruiting channels. How can some of these tools be used as an opportunity to be able to assess a student's ability to engage in a self-directed, open entry, open exit, competency-based sort of model. It's not for everyone. You know that, I know that, but can there be some tool to be able to do that? A lot of talk about some of the challenges that are going to come to us is we're going to start having more and more students that are going to show up on our campuses claiming that they've got different competency levels. Just like right now, they'll show up and they'll say, hey, I would like to take that CLEP exam. I've got some experience or I've had some prior learning that I think can be documented. In some ways, just like on a current transcript, students will have AP credits, dual enrollment, they'll have some CLEP, they'll have some credits they took at a 2-year, and they may have gone to a regional university and they finished up at another regional university. Where will these type of credits play in that layer cake of opportunities? On the left is the myth. It's very rare that you find a student that just goes straight through the core, straight through completing an associate degree, straight through completing a bachelor's degree. That's not the norm. The one on the right is probably more the deal that we see on our campuses. Certainly, we know that a number of our campuses are talking about, for certain, the opportunity for what might be the opportunities here in this space for some of the core via MOOC or MOOC-like opportunities. We know that from a number of our state colleges, some conversations about looking at some high-demand associate degrees where there might be that Area F, 18-hour block to be able to complete again, in a discipline that's appropriate in that space. And then there are some conversations about bachelor's degree completion options, maybe for those students that do have significant hours in a given subject area. And then conversations about looking at course sequences within the major. I had a faculty member, well, I don't mind saying it, from Valdosta. It was in the social work or sociology. I didn't get to exactly that area talking about. There are three courses within their major that are almost independent study in terms of the nature of the courses, that doing something very proactive in this space would be very appropriate. Agree. If that's something that they're wanting to look at, that's fantastic. There's a lot of very active conversations going on that are in the new models. We've already talked about the Georgia Tech. We know at Columbus State they're providing the leadership in terms of the Next Generation Learning Challenge, where they're thinking about a modular approach to certain segments of their criminal justice and their communication degrees. Again, that's doing things, that's not about 10,000. That's just about finding ways to save time for students and allow students to move through competency models. We certainly have UGA and a number of other institutions that have been involved in the development of a pre-calc course. That again, it's not a MOOC, but it's a new model. It's thinking about doing things in a consortial framework and thinking about leveraging some of those technology elements that surround student success and quality of teaching and learning. There are a lot of conversations about competency-based models and opportunities in that. Really for all 4 of our tiers of institution, but in particular Bainbridge College. They are working on a certificate that's in the business discipline that absolutely is looking to see how they can advance certificate completion and be able to have some competency models within that. And then we know that we've got our relationships with Coursera. We've got our relationship with D2L working in a MOOC-like space within that existing platform. And then we want to continue exploring the initial and early relationships with some of the other providers, because in the end, we've got faculty, we've got departments that they want to get into the sandbox and they want to see what might be available in this space, and we certainly want that to occur. A lot of great pieces are in place in Georgia already, though. Our system is thought of as a high-performing system of higher education. We are thought of as a system that has absolutely outstanding institutions at those 4 tiers. We also are thought of as a system that is seen as a good horse to bet on in terms of what we already do in innovative space in terms of educational technology and information technology. This is just a word cloud that colleague John Sizemore created that kind of it really throws out there a lot of those things that if we were to do a brainstorm for some of those key tools that are about reaching students with these access, these asynchronous opportunities and all the supports that surround them, we certainly are very active in that space. What I think that we're going to have to do is think about where are we as a system, where are we as individual institutions, and where are we as consortia of institutions on this wheel. Where are we in terms of the overall maturity, the health, the opportunities? Where do some things need to be augmented as we think about those necessary components, especially as you as campuses begin thinking about moving into space that really stretches the boundaries on technology. One of the things I did ask some of our team is just kind of do a quick summary scan of that. You know, we have really good progress and functionality in networks. We're very blessed as a state and as a system in that. We certainly have got challenges in thinking about delivery systems, especially at scale, and the student support that's necessary. That and certainly mobile deployment is becoming more and more important. Affordable resources as we think about the integration of affordable textbook solutions, learning modules, OER expansion. We certainly need to be more active in that. The assessment tools are very important, and then the role of analytics. It does not do us any good to walk students into an opportunity and set them up for failure and have low retention rates and low completion rates. I don't want to pick a scab. We already do that very well. It is frightening to look at some of our fall to spring, fall to fall, freshman to junior, and then all the way through completion retention rates in some of our programs and across some of our campuses. Whatever we're going to do in this space, we have got to be committed to do better than that. So things like identity management, analytics, and the like, to really be able to make certain to set students up for success, steer them away if this is not a medium that is appropriate for them, and get them into a medium that is going to be critical to what we'll be expecting our campuses that are active in the space to do and what we'll need to do. And the financial models are certainly the least developed because no one really knows where that is going to go. But again, we have to be willing, like President Peterson and like Provost Bross, to get on that train because in the end, we need to be a part of the conversation. We're going to be talking about, over the next 2 years, 3 key initiatives, and many of you in this room will be directly involved in maybe all 3 of these, but it'd be hard-pressed for you to not be involved in each of the 3. We got some broad goals that I think are going to overshoot. You were sent an email, I think, with a document that sort of provided a framework for these initiatives. The idea that we need to be more flexible, think about how we can be maximize transient enrollments, how we can take advantage of capacity. Again, we need to adhere to admissions and placement standards, but if we've got an opportunity that a student could avail themselves at Campus B and they're enrolled at Campus A, again, the strength of us being a system is that we can function as a system and take advantage of those capacities across our system. We think that within that there are some opportunities to be able to find affordable and high-quality opportunities. We want to make certain that those opportunities are visible and accessible to students. Again, we are very blessed. Georgia has developed tools such as Ingress, which allow that to happen. Those are tools that other systems do not have. I mean, it's one of the key pieces to when we want to perform in a consortial manner, we've got the capacity to do that from a technological, if we've got the will and we've got the policy capacity to do so. We absolutely want to continue to encourage not only Georgia Tech, but many of our institutions to be more involved in the development as well as the utilization of MOOCs and other open educational resources. There is an idea out there that really all the MOOC conversation is doing is just accelerating this whole movement toward open source and open educational resource. There's no one in this room that's not been in the OER conversation for the last decade. Some of you have been leaders in that for 20 years. The idea that we can think about course-like, textbook, learning modules, other OER resources that can be integrated into courses, those are things you're doing already. Now, MOOCs take that idea and it kind of puts it on steroids. And again, we'll go back to that threat assessment scale. It's certainly, because of the schools that are involved, we'd be in a very different place if leading institutions in the world were on the forefront of online education back in 96, 97. The fact that they are in this is certainly of interest, but we need to make certain to expand that OER world. And then we need to look at how we can develop and look at the adoption and the leveraging of our textbook, repository, and referatory opportunities with other states and other systems. The first thing that we're going to be doing is really looking to push where Galileo will be 15 years from now. Galileo is an incredible asset. Again, many of you here in this room are to be thanked for what Galileo is today and for the potential that it has for the future. But thinking about how Galileo can continue to be an absolute leading asset in terms of teaching and service and research, and how can it continue to push the boundaries of OER. One of the things that our librarian group, and we're starting to talk with our discipline advisory groups about Galileo and the Affordable Learning Georgia project. This is going to be in concert with the Cal State University system. It's really a partnership of USG, Galileo, and Cal State and their Merlot system. Behind the scenes, there are many referatories and repositories that we need to make it very easy for our faculty to be able to go out and be able to get peer-reviewed e-text, to be able to get peer-reviewed learning modules, to be able to get things. They can sort off the ISBN number for, I had a sacred textbook that if the students didn't read it, they were not a whole person, all right? I mean, I get that. But if I could replace my second and third and fourth textbook that I really didn't make the students use 100% of with some of the open educational resources, that is a tool that can really help in terms of textbook affordability. There's a statistic going around, and I do know from the University of Oklahoma, they did survey their students. 40% of the students at the University of Oklahoma were not even buying their textbooks. How does that promote quality teaching and learning? Because they've gotten so expensive. I saw a recent survey, an estimate, it's 50% of students nationwide that are choosing to not buy one or more of their textbook and courses. It's a problem we've got to deal with. A second piece is launching the USG New Learnings Model Advisory Council. We absolutely positively need to extend the conversation that the Distance Education Task Force started about 2 years ago, finished up their work a year ago, but they could not have imagined where MOOCs and some of these new models were going to go. We want to have representatives from that initial task force. We want to have representatives from our Regents Advisory Council on Distance Ed. We want to have representatives from our Faculty Council, from RICEA, that's our accreditation group, from presidents, from VPAAs, from VPSAs, from CBOs and CIOs. You can quickly get to, that's going to be a big group, and that is fine. We need to have all 31 of our campuses in that conversation. Everybody at least needs to have one person that is a liaison back, because that needs to be a constant conversation about where we are. Because the reality is it's a broad conversation. New models are not just about the content. It has to be about where are we going in terms of the e-textbooks and open educational resources. It has to be about where are we positioned as a system and as individual campuses for academic and student supports. And it has to be about what are the assessments that undergird that, whether it be in a traditional classroom, a traditional online learning setting, or something's at scale. That conversation is going to so rapidly evolve in the next 2 years that we're asking the individuals, we're starting to get nominated, and by all means, I would love to have nominations and volunteers from this group. We're going to ask those individuals to commit to a 2-year period of time, because we think that so much change is going to come in the next 2 years. And then the third thing, and you're going to hear some more about this today, and I'll close with this, is a MOOC New Models Consortia. We see that we'd like a group of our institutions to come together and really begin exploring and prioritizing what are the opportunities to develop pathways for students. Is there something that's most appropriate in the gen ed space that might be pursued by our system or groups of institutions in our system? We would like them to explore that. Are there opportunities to be able to leverage this content in a hybrid flipped model with existing online programs? We want them to explore that. But either way, we know that this is an opportunity for the University System of Georgia and a number of, if not all, of our 31 campuses to be a leader. And if we're a leader, we can stay on that quality assurance hill from the very beginning. We think that there certainly will be opportunities to look at credit sequences, high demand associate degree options, some selected bachelor's and master's and certificate completion options, and maybe just options that are there to support. This group is absolutely going to be doing, as much as anything, thinking about the assets that are already in play, those tools that are already in the toolkit, and how might they be leveraged to be able to look at maybe some competency-based opportunities. Maybe that is the direction that we need to go, bless you, as a consortia of institutions, looking at, for students that do want to have a self-directed open entry, open exit opportunity, competency-based, what are the rules of the game going to be for that? How can we provide the quality assurances all the way through? And this is just looking at a variety of options that group may be charged with exploring. Maybe there need to be some USG developed resources. Okay? Not just taking advantage of resources that are already out there, but outright some of our schools providing the leadership on that. Some of our schools are already doing that, and we certainly want to allow some space to be able to do that. Georgia State has agreed to be a coordinating institution for that effort, but that is something that is going to be open to any and all of our institutions and a variety of roles that can be played. In the end, as things are prioritized and we begin to develop, here's what makes the most sense for the campuses and the system to do. Again, as those groups of faculty administrators lead us to that. We may need institutions to be institutions of record all the way through. You may be in the development and the utilization mode. Either way, we need to be thinking broadly about how can our research universities, comprehensive universities, state universities, and state colleges be active in that space. And again, how can quality be assured if we're going to be in that space? You can tell that there's a lot going on. There are many, many, many more questions than there are answers. I mean, I joke about all that, but that is true. But what I really am appreciative of as we've engaged with our 31 campuses, we've got a number of schools that are already very active in thinking about new models. You've been for a long time. This is just stretching the bounds of what you are already leaning toward. We've got some institutions that are a little, they're scared about, well, how do we get involved with this? They probably want to see if that first group dies trying it before they get in. But they're curious, and we want to encourage that curiosity, and we want to make certain that we're allowing institutions to be in the space. And then we know full well that we've got some campuses and we've got some departments and some colleges and some campuses that don't want to get into space. That's fine too. What we want to do is take advantage of what is the strength of our system. We've got 31 very different institutions that provide a wide variety of high quality options to Georgians and to individuals from all over the world. If we were one size fits all, first of all, that would be boring, and we would not be viewed as the strong system that we are nationally and internationally. We see that where there's the demand, where there are those that want to be active in this new model space, we want to allow that to happen. And we want to be committed to a dialogue that allows all 31 of our campuses to be involved in the conversation about where are we with those pilots? Where are we with those attempts to be able to look at breaking some boundaries in terms of how you can do student support at scale, even though perhaps your teaching and learning delivery will be more traditional. That's something that we can all benefit from, and that helps in terms of bringing overall ideas to scale. I want to finish just by saying that we know that you took the time to be here today. Your work did not stop. Thank goodness for iPods or iPhones and the like. We can at least keep track. But you've said something about your commitment to serving students. You've said something about commitment to advances in your discipline. You've said something about your curiosity about who we are as a system and where we're going. And we don't take that for granted. And we want you, 150 strong, to be able to provide the leadership and set the tone for these conversations going forward. You've got my contact information. I am always looking for feedback, rebuttals, looking for, hey, here's some things that we need to be thinking about because I think they're right around the curve. By all means, we'd love to be able to have that. You've got my email and you've got the phone number there. Thank you very much for the time that you're taking. And Lynn, I'll turn it back over to you.